Thank you so much for once again. I know it's week after week. You all have a lot of patience and energy to listen to everything that I have to say. So very, very grateful to all our temple congregation members. So last week we did not make our announcement because a lot of people were out last week. So we wanted to save everything for this week. So we have a pretty sizable amount that we've gathered in the last 2 weeks. We have a total of 15,882 that we've collected in the last 2 weeks. And our grand total is now close to 158,000. So Hari Bol and a big jai to everybody who has been part of this campaign for us for the temple fund collection. So before I go into a little more about what our plans are in the coming few weeks, I want to first thank our donors for the last 2 weeks, and then we'll jump into the additional next steps. So we have Savitri Janapareddy, 501, Roshan Agarwal and Priyanka Agarwal, 500, Rakesh Tiwari and Rashmi Tiwari, 50, Rajiv Jain and Jyoti Agarwal, 251 and another 101, Satya Srivastava and Sangeeta Srivastava, 101, Ritu Jindal, 101, Prakash Patel and Purvi Patel, 101, Devashish Kashikar, 101, Geeta Madhura, 101, Neeraj Sahu and Shalini Sahu, 151, Gopi Anchuri, 51, Shesha Akinapalli, 1000, Bal Jagannath Sriram and Chandana, 108, Kiran Prabhu and Lasya Mataji, 1116. I love the number, so thank you, Prabhuji. Raja Komu Roji, 208, Anand Gorthi and Sita, 108, Sham Gopal Prabhu and Shiromani Mataji, 10,000, Ravi Mela Cheruvu and Sarita, 108, Anup Ampa Gauni and Veena, 108, Ravi Kumar Prabhu and Santoshi Mataji, 516, Prabhakaran Prabhu and Sri Devi Mataji, 500. So that got us to a total of 15,882 in the last 2 weeks. And we are very, very proud of this congregation who has really poured their hearts and opened up their hearts and made contributions, which have got us in 50 days to 158,000. So thank you from the bottom of not only my heart, but everybody at the temple to make this come true. So as you know, we started this campaign 50 days ago, and our goal was to raise 500,000 in 50 days. We know we are behind. We know we are at 158,000, but we should not, feel disheartened by it. I think we should take this as an opportunity to not only feel good and really have a sense of accomplishment, because all this is going for Krishna. And we all know it is not easy to raise funds, especially in the religious space. I've seen GoFundMe pages, where people are very willing to help. And sometimes in a week, I've seen 300,000 raised. It's okay. So we should not feel disheartened. We should look at this as an opportunity that Krishna is telling us, this is great, but we have more work to do. So while today is the last day of our 550 campaign, it is not our last day of fundraising. We are going to continue making inch by inch progress to build that temple for Sri Hari. So going back to, just a little bit on benefits of helping build a temple for the Lord. Lord Krishna has given us this opportunity. So we really have to say, we are so blessed that we have this opportunity to become part of this project. In the Vamana Purana, it is said that on building a temple of Sri Madhav, one can attain eternal Vaikuntha Loka. I mean, isn't that amazing? And in the Padma Purana, this is what hit me the most. In the Padma Purana, it says, mortals, which is all of us, who help construct a temple of Lord Vishnu do not return to this world. They return to the abode of Lord Vishnu. This was so touching for me, because why are we all here? We are all here to reconnect to our eternal Father, to Lord Krishna, so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. We don't want to be in this rut race for the next, several lifetimes. The other day, somebody said, I think Pralaya is coming because there's so much happening in the world that is all negative. And we know that is not true, because in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Kali Yuga is 432,000 years long. And we are only done with 5,000 years. So we know that really the misery and disaster of Kali Yuga is far from here. And how do we all feel about this life? I don't think there's anybody who can say, I'm eternally happy. I have nothing to do, or I have no worries in life. We're all struggling in many ways. Some with, jobs, some with finances, some with health, some with kids. And the list goes on and on. Dukhalaya Shashvatam, we are in a place of misery. So how do we get out of this place of misery? I know there is a lot that we have to do, but this one step, if we help construct a temple of Lord Vishnu, we will not return to this world. We will return to the abode of Vishnu. I'm telling you, this is going to seal the deal for us. So come one, come all. And even if you have donated, you can still open up your heart if this phrase from Padma Purana has moved you. And if we all understand everybody has financial limitations, but let's think outside the box. So as next steps, we know that, we've pretty much tapped into most of our temple community. And we are very, very thankful for that. But again, we know it takes a lot of money to bring, to build a temple. So what we want to do is, as part of our committee, next week, we have on point Ram Prabhu, Radha Damodar Das, and Satyarupa Prabhu, who are brainstorming more ideas about how to do fundraising beyond the temple community, online fundraising beyond the community, door to door. And I personally know that some of these contributions that I read, there are devotees from the temple, and I'm not going to name anybody because I may do injustice in just naming a few when there are so many, but who have been going door to door. A lot of the names that I read today, they're not attending every week Sunday programs. They're not necessarily in our temple congregation, but we have such silent warriors who have gone door to door and got donations from so many people. So now we need to brainstorm as to what is the next step for us to take. If we have tapped into our temple community, then we need to take this message beyond the temple community. Some of you have already done it, but we, as the temple committee, want to come to you with ideas, suggestions, ways of doing it. So we can empower each of you to do it in a different forum or a format that will bring in more donations. Of course, we would love for Krishna to bless us with that one, maybe, $5 million donor. But Krishna is wanting us to work hard. It's almost the same as, some people may say, I wish I won that lottery, but Krishna wants us to work towards it. And the fruit and satisfaction of achieving something after you've worked very hard for something is way more than what you would get if we were to, benefit from one single donor. So this is our effort for Krishna and for ourselves, to demonstrate that we are willing to work hard and we are willing to take this beyond the temple community. So stay tuned. Next week, we will come with more ideas and suggestions on how we can take this fundraising beyond the community. Last but not least, Satyasar Prabhu is working on a donor from Seattle. And while I cannot share all the details because it is still in nothing is finalized yet. But we're hoping that in the next few days or few weeks, we will probably get a big donor. And when I say big donor, we are again not looking at millions, but even for one person to be in, six figures is big these days. So we are working on it. It is not complete. Like they say, it's not done till it's done. So once it is nearing completion, we will be happy to share more details with you. But in the meantime, we have to keep our, foot on the gas pedal, and we have to keep moving forward. We do not have the option, and we cannot give ourselves the option of saying we've done our piece. We have not done our piece till the time we have enough funds and our Hare Krishna Temple of Austin. So thank you, everybody, very much. Satyasar Prabhu, Radha Damodar Prabhu, would you like to add something?
No, Mataji, you summed it up so well and have a fantastic message. I completely concur what you said. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So with that, we'll move on to the next segment of our program, which is Bhagavad Gita class. We have a very special speaker today. PremaSindhu Prabhu, could you please show your darshan to us? Jai. Okay. So PremaSindhu Prabhu is going to be our special speaker today. Just for the pleasure of the devotees, here is an introduction of PremaSindhu Prabhu. Prabhu is from Columbus, Ohio. He's in the temple administration or management committee as well. He has been practicing Krishna consciousness since 1988-89. He's a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And PremaSindhu Prabhu is a very potent preacher, cultivated hundreds and hundreds of devotees all over North America. He conducts outreach programs, especially geared towards Westerners, and also he conducts every day Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam classes every day. He's a very, very empowered book distributor and excellent kirtanier as well. So we are truly blessed to have PremaSindhu Prabhu's association on this day. So with that, let us welcome Prabhu by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Control to you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so should I sing Jai Radha Madhav 5 minutes?
Yes, please, yeah.
My harmonium here. So. You can hear me, okay?
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Pradana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pradana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pradana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pradana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna So we will read Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter.
PremaSindhu Prabhu, your volume is little low. You can come closer to the laptop. And also adjust your camera so we can see your face. Okay, good. Thank you.
So we discuss something from 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Last time I spoke also, I think it was more than 6.
Prabhu, again, your volume is too low, Prabhu.
Let me see. Let me adjust my mic. Maybe I'll just speak louder. Is it better now if I speak a little closer? And
Yes, please. Yeah, please continue, Prabhu. Yeah.
okay. No, there is a microphone is on. All right, so we'll just run through the 12th chapter. Maybe I'll speak for 35-40 minutes and then we can have some discussion. So I can also learn something from all the devotees. So before reciting, I'll just say, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. The middle 6 chapters deal with Bhakti Yoga specifically. So 12th chapter is one of the middle 6 chapters. It is the last of the middle 6 chapters. It is one of the shortest chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. 15th chapter and 12th chapter have only 20 verses. So, but this chapter is entitled Devotional Service, Bhakti Yoga. So we'll discuss a few things that Krishna says in this chapter. I'm sure you have heard this before, but it's always good to hear again. So I'm going to go through the verses. So first, this chapter opens with a question by Arjun. Arjun uvacha evam satada yukta ye bhaktastvam paryupasate ye chapya aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. It's a very important question Arjuna is asking. that those who worship you as impersonal Brahman and those who worship you as in the personal form, of them who is superior? Please tell me, O Krishna, of them who is superior. So there is always a debate between, impersonalists and personalists, whether the Lord is a person or is impersonal. The problem with considering the Lord as a person is that we think a person means he has limitations, he's like us. And if he's a person, he cannot be omnipresent, because I am a person, I have limitations, I have a form, and my form has limitations. If I'm in my home, I'm not in my office. But Lord is present everywhere. So many times people have difficulty accepting the Lord as a person. And this is the person from whom everything is coming. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabho mata sarvam pravartate. So, but he is not an ordinary person like us. So he can be present at in Golok Vrindavan, and he can be present everywhere else also. He can expand himself. Another difficulty in accepting God as a person is that there is a fear of relationships. In this world, relationships often go sour. So if my relationship with God doesn't work out, if he's a person, he has qualities and he has feelings, then what if my relationship with him doesn't work out? So that is another uh, difficulty in accepting God as a person. But actually, God is a person. As we will see, God is a person, and personal worship to God is higher than the impersonal form of worship. Now, Krishna is very kind in the seventh chapter and the ninth chapter. In the seventh chapter, he says, if somebody wants to worship some demigod, Krishna is very open. He says, I'll give them the faith. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhaya architum ichhati. Tasya chalam shraddham tan eva vidadami aham. Oh, if somebody wants whichever demigod you want to worship, Krishna says, I give them the faith. Or whoever you want to worship, even if not a demigod, if you want to worship some man as a god, like we have so many people who claim to be God and people have their followers. So Krishna gives that faith. Why Krishna gives that faith? Because Krishna doesn't force anybody. And so whatever your desire, this material world is also created in reciprocation of our desire to enjoy independently of him. So we want to enjoy independently. Krishna created this material world. Whatever you desire, ye athamam prapadyante tansathaiva bhajami ham. As you surrender, I reciprocate, but as you desire also, Krishna reciprocates. Because without Krishna's sanction, nobody can fulfill any desire. Ultimately, Krishna has to sanction. We have many desires, but ultimately, Krishna has to give us the intelligence, give us the ability to fulfill that desire. So then, if somebody wants to worship demigods, he gives the faith. So Krishna is very open. After speaking the whole Bhagavad Gita, he told Arjun, yes, I have told you everything. Now you deliberate on this and you act on it as you like. Yatha ichasi tatha kuru. As your desire is, you act. So Krishna gives us that freedom, that minute freedom. So Arjuna is asking this question. And then Krishna responds in the second verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mayaveshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhayo Pariopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. He says, of the two, those who worship me in the impersonal and those who worship in me in my personal form, those who worship me in my personal form, they are higher. Now, as we understand, absolute truth has three aspects. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdate. Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan are the three aspects of the absolute truth. But Brahman realization is incomplete. Paramatma is still more complete, and Bhagavan is the most complete realization. But if somebody wants to worship him as impersonal Brahman, Krishna appears as impersonal Brahman. Also, all these incarnations, there are many incarnations of Krishna. So Krishna appears in a form according to the devotee's desire. He will, somebody wants to worship him as Lord Ramchandra, so he appears as Lord Ramchandra. So according to our desires, Krishna also, there are devotees of Lord Ramchandra, there are devotees of Lord Nrsingadev, like that, different. So that is what he says in the second verse. Okay. And then Arjuna may be wondering, or Krishna may be thinking, that Arjuna might be thinking, what about those who worship the impersonal? What is their destination? So in verse 3 and 4, um, Krishna talks about those who worship the impersonal. So he says, those who worship the impersonal, ye tvaksharam nirdeshyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastham achalam dhruvam sanyamendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhaya te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hite ratha. So he says, those who worship the inconceivable, the immovable Brahman, being equipoised to everyone, desiring welfare of everyone, after long time, they also achieve me. At last they achieve me. So how do they achieve Krishna? Well, they go to Brahma Jyoti, because that is also Krishna. Brahman is also, Brahma Jyoti is also Krishna. Actually, there is nothing but Krishna and Krishna's energy. There is nothing, like the Mayavadi says, sarvam khalva idam Brahma. There is nothing but Brahman, which is correct, because the energy and the energetic are not different in one sense. This is Achintya Bheda Bhed philosophy. So everything is Krishna in one sense, yes, because it is Krishna's energy. Sunshine and sun are non-different in one sense, but they are not the same also. So that's where the Bhed part comes in. But they are non-different. So those who worship, those who are attached to the impersonal, they ultimately achieve Krishna. How? They attain Brahma Jyoti, and that is also Krishna. Or if they meet a devotee, like Shukdev Goswami, the four Kumaras, they are in the Brahman realization. And Shukdev Goswami, when he was in the forest, he heard verses about Krishna. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam jigam sapayayadapi asadvi. He heard about Putana. Lebe gatim dhatri uchitam tato anyam kamva dayalu sharanam vrajema. Oh, this Krishna is so kind that even Putana, who came as disguised, as a very beautiful lady to kill him, and Krishna gave the position of a mother, nurse in the spiritual world. So this verse was spoken by Uddhav. So he became attracted to hearing about this most merciful person, Krishna. So Sukdev Goswami, he was an impersonalist, but then even the Atma Ramas Munayo Nirgranthi Api Urukrame. It is described in the Bhagavatam. Those who are Atma Ramas, Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktim, Itham Bhuta Gunohari. Those who are Atma Ramas, they are also attracted. So the impersonalists, they have given up all material desires and they've come to this platform, but they are also attracted by Krishna. So if they meet a devotee of Krishna, then they will also achieve Krishna. They will also come to the personal conception of Krishna. So that is what Krishna is saying in the third and fourth verse. Now, the 12th chapter is divided into like the impersonal versus personal. For the first 7 verses, Krishna is talking about it. Then through 8 through 12, Krishna talks about the stages of bhakti. And then the last verses from 13th onwards till the 20th, he talks about the qualities in a devotee that make one dear to Krishna. So what are the qualities of a devotee, or what are the qualities that make a person dear to him? So that is 35 qualities he talks about in the last section of the. So there is basically 3 sections. So in verse number 5, Krishna is talking about the impersonal path. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta asakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavad bhiravapyate. Klesha means trouble. Adhik means excessive. Adhik, more. So those who are on the impersonal path, their trouble is very great. Why? Because they're attached to this impersonal. When God is impersonal, then there is nothing to talk about, right? He has no qualities. You don't have any deities, to look at beautiful deities, beautiful form. No pastimes to talk about. So it is all based on dry renunciation. So it is very difficult Because we have senses, and the senses demand engagement. And if you don't have engagement, uh, and just to deny the senses, it's very difficult. So that is why the impersonal path, Krishna says, he uses the word klesha and dukkham. It is, there is trouble on this path, difficulty, and it is miserable, especially for those who are embodied. He says, Dehavad viravapyate. So we are all embodied, we are in the body, the soul is in the body. So those who are attached to this impersonal, they have great trouble. So as compared to the path of bhakti, which Krishna says in the ninth chapter, second verse, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This part of bhakti is very joyful. Why? Because we have nice things to eat, prasadam, we have nice things to hear, nice pastimes of Krishna to hear about, nice beautiful form of Krishna to look at in the form of the deities. So all our senses, nice fragrances to smell, the flowers offered to the Lord. But on the impersonal path, there is not such. Of course, the impersonalists, they worship, they do pancha upasana, and they worship the five forms of the deities. But they think this is only temporary. This is just to focus. And afterwards, when we attain a certain stage, then we can do away with these deities, because these deities are not required. This is just it's like a ladder. You climb to a certain point, and when you are on that high point, you don't need the ladder anymore. So you throw away the ladder. So their conception is like that, the Mayavad conception like that. So, okay. So then Krishna says, this path of impersonal is very difficult. Now he says, what about those who worship me in my personal form, in bhakti, giving up all their activities to me, those who surrender to me? What about them? So that's verse 6 and 7. ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्परः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धार्ता मृत्यु संसार सागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशित चेतसाम. So Krishna is saying, those who dedicate their activities to me and who exclusively worship me, ananyaneva yogena. Ananya means no other. Anya means other. Ananya means no other. Those who are exclusively dedicated to me, those who worship me, those who meditate upon me, mam dhyayanta upasate, then how do I reciprocate? I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. We are rotating in the cycle of birth and death. Mrityu Sansara Sagarat. In 2021, I am in Columbus, Ohio. In 2121, where I will be, I don't know. In 1921, where I was, I don't know. I didn't know. But I existed as the soul, and we are going from one body to another. This is the big problem in material existence, that we have to change our situation. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. Krishna says this is one of the items of knowledge. And to realize the evils, the faults in this material existence is knowledge. So we are in this ocean cycle of birth and death, and we are trying to enjoy, but we are getting suffering. We get coronavirus, earthquakes, and bomb blasts and everything. All this thing is because we are in this material existence, which is Krishna describes as a place of suffering. Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam asashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana sansiddhim paramam gataha. That we are in this material existence, we are like a fish out of water. And no matter what we try, the situation will never become comfortable, because it's the material nature. So Krishna wants us to go back home. And that's why he speaks, he does his pastimes, he advertises, through his pastimes to attract us. So finally, we have got this human form of life. And the human form of life, as Prahlad Maharaj, Prabhupada quoted Prahlad Maharaj many times, he said, this human form of life, kaumaram acharit pragyo dharman bhagvataniha durlabham manusham janma tadapya dhruvam arthadam. He says spiritual life should begin very early in life. Kaumara. Kaumara is 0 to 5 years age. Like then we have Kaumara, then we have Poganda, then we have Kishora, and we have Yovana. Like we have all these different Leelas of Krishna. So Kaumara is 5 years. He said spiritual life should begin very early in life. And how it begins? Well, the parents have to raise their children in Krishna consciousness. Rishabh Dev says, don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become a guru. Guru na sasyat, janani na sasyat, pita na sasyat. If you cannot deliver, your dependence from the cycle of birth and death. So it is the duty of the parents, duty of the guru, like that, to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. So Prahlad Maharaj says, this Krishna consciousness should begin very early in life. Why? Because human form of life is very rarely achieved. We have gone through so many species of life. We have struggled in so many species of life as birds, beasts, Jalaja Navalakhani, Sthavara Laksha Vimshati, Krimaya Rudra Sankhyaka, Pakshinam Dashalakshanam, Pashava Trimsha Lakshani, Chatur Lakhani Manava. Padma Puran says, oh, there are 8,400,000 species of life. We have been in aquatic species, we have been in tree species, 900,000 species of aquatics, then trees, birds. We have gone through so many different situations of life. Finally, we have come to the human form of life. Very rare to achieve this human form of life. And it is rare, but it is also temporary. And but it is very valuable. These are the three qualities of human life, characteristics of human life that Prahlad Maharaj is describing in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada quoted this verse many times. Kaumaram acharit pragyo dharman bhagavataniha durlabham manusham janma. You've got this rare opportunity. It's like you got the lottery. You got the human form of life, you got the lottery. And durlabham manusham janma tadapya dhruvam arthadam. It is adhruvam. It is not. So many people died in coronavirus. They didn't expect that to happen. And it can happen to us or anybody. Accidents, so many people die. So it is adhruvam. Human life is, you cannot say how long, whether we'll see tomorrow's sunrise, we don't know. Tadapya dhruvam arthadam, but it is very valuable. While you have it, it's very valuable. So better start early, because you don't know how long you're going to live. So start early. And if it's late, better late than never. So anyway, so this is how so Krishna consciousness is very important. Otherwise, we rotate in the cycle of birth and death. In the 9th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, second or third verse, Krishna says, those who are not faithful on this path, ashraddha dhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivardante mrityu sansara vartmani. Those who are not faithful on this path of devotional service, they come back they don't attain me, aprapya mam. We don't go back to the spiritual world. We come back on the cycle, on the path. Vartmani is the path. Mrityu sansara vartmani. As Krishna says here, mrityu sansara sagarat. So we come back on the path of repeated birth and death. Sometimes we may be born in a very nice situation. Sometimes we're born as a worm. And so like that, we suffer. And only Krishna consciousness, because by nature, we are part of Krishna. Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Unless the part serves the whole, the part can never be satisfied. The leaf which is attached to a tree is meant to serve the tree. If the leaf is cut off from the tree, then the leaf will start drying up. So as long as when we are disconnected in our consciousness from Krishna, then all the problems are there. We're in difficulty and we feel miserable. That is what it is described. What is the root cause of our problem? Root cause of our problem is we have turned away from Krishna. Krishna bhuli jiva se anadir bahir mukha ateva maya tare deya sansara dukha. As soon as we forget Krishna, then we come into this maya sansar and we experience all kinds of misery. Krishna bhuliya jiva bhogavancha kore pashate maya tare japotiya dhare. So Prabhupada wanted to give Krishna consciousness because as an expert person, he knows what is the root cause of the problem. The root cause of all our problems is we have turned away from Krishna. So as soon as we turn back to Krishna, Krishna delivers us from this cycle of birth and death. And we go back home, back to Godhead, which is our real home, our eternal home, home sweet home. That is our, so And how do we attain there? By devotional service. So by awakening our love for Krishna. So human form of life is meant to awaken this dormant love for Krishna. And how do we do that? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Uday. By regularly hearing about Krishna, by chanting his holy names. Shravan Adi, beginning with hearing. First thing is hearing. And then Rukmini got attached to Krishna. She didn't even see Krishna. Uh, there was no Facebook, no picture transmission. She had not seen Krishna. But in the palace where she used to stay with her father, Bhishmak, a lot of saintly people used to come and they used to talk about Krishna. So she was hearing. Narad Muni used to come and she was hearing. Prahlad Maharaj also, he was in the womb and he became Krishna conscious. He didn't even see his spiritual master, Narad Muni. He was in the womb for a long time and he was hearing the Bhagavad discourses. Prahlad Maharaj is on my mind because we just had Narsingha Chaturdashi. So Narad Muni was speaking and Prahlad Maharaj was hearing for a long time, every day, regularly. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. He was hearing regularly every day. And from a person like Narad Muni, as soon as he was born, he was a devotee. He was born a devotee. So this is the advantage of hearing about Krishna. In the 7th chapter, first verse, Maya Sakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjun Madashraya Asanshayam Samagramam Yatha Gnashashi Tachrinu. Krishna is saying, just hear from me. In this way, by hearing from me, you will become attached to me and you will know me in full, free from doubt. So hearing is very important. Okay, so now that ends the first section of the 12th chapter. Now Krishna is describing the progressive stages of bhakti. So first he says, you think of me spontaneously in love. Maya eva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivashyasi mayi eva ata urdhvam na sanshaya. Ata urdhvam na sanshaya. So he says, make your mind always think of me. And what will be the result of always thinking? Engage your mind and intelligence in me. Nivas. Nivas is reside. Nivas is residence. So he says, engage your mind and your intelligence in thinking of me. And in this way, you will reside in me. Nivashyasi mai eva. I will also think of you. Krishna says, for one who sees me everywhere and who sees everything in me, I am never lost to him, nor is he lost to me. So, so this is a bond of love. There is no doubt. You will always, ata urdhvam na sanshaya. There is no doubt that you will always live in me, without doubt. So just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. But that is very difficult to do, right? We know how difficult when we sit down to chant japa, how our mind goes everywhere. So it is very difficult. When do we, this is talking about spontaneous devotional service, raganuga bhakti. When one becomes very attached to Krishna, when one loves Krishna, then one can always think of Krishna. But just like whoever you love in this world, that person is always on your mind. The mother loves the child, the husband loves the wife loves the husband. It is described. Yutinam yatha yuni, yunam chu yuvato yatha. Manobhi ramate tadvan manome ramatam tvai. As young girls are attracted to young boys and young boys are attracted to young girls. In the same way, the prayer is to Lord. Oh my Lord, please my mind be attached to you. With that same spontaneity. But that is very difficult to come to that platform. So Krishna says, okay, if you can't do that, then he's going to give the next one step down, how you can come to that platform. So he speaks verse number 9. Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. Oh, if you cannot fix your chitta, your consciousness on me steadily, sthiram, Na shaknosi. Shaknosi means shakya means possibility. Na shaknosi means it is not possible to fix your mind steadily upon me. Then what you should do? You should practice abhyas. Abhyas yogena tato. Mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. And what is that abhyas yoga? Prabhupada describes in the purport. So I'm going to read a little bit from this purport. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning. This is very important. For spiritual life, if you want to make good spiritual advancement, then you should rise early in the Brahma Muhurat. Prabhupada says one should chant Hare Krishna in the Brahma Muhurat and hear the transcendental sound of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra very nicely. You know. So this rising early is very important. That's why we have Mangla Arati. We may not be able to follow, but we have to rise at our home all the, the way it's done in the temple. If we can do it, it's nice. But at least we should chant our rounds, most of our rounds in the morning. And if possible, 16 rounds. Somebody asked Prabhupada one time, I'm remembering this, Suhas Prabhu, he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how can we distribute your books uninterruptedly without any, losing enthusiasm? And Prabhupada says, you should chant your 16 rounds uninterruptedly. So, so we should rise early because at that time it is peaceful and hopefully we had a good night's rest. It's very important. And if you had a good night's rest, then we can rise early. We can chant Hare Krishna nicely. No phone calls are coming at that time. There is everybody else sleeping. And if they are awake, they are devotees, they are also chanting. So nobody is going to call us. And we can spend that early morning hours in absorbed in the holy name, in the scriptures. So rising early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna, then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs. So this is the practice to offer to the deity, take prasadam and so on. And there are various rules and regulations which one should follow. Because the rules and regulations, this is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti will lead to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. The previous verse describes Raganuga. Raganuga means spontaneous. So Vaidhi means under rules and regulations. And if we follow the rules and regulations, we'll become attached to doing it. We'll like to do it. And this will bring us to the platform of love of God. So, and Prabhupada says, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, then is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. And then when you have love of God, when you feel very enthused in Krishna consciousness, you like to share the knowledge with others. Preaching is a result of one's feeling uh, pleasure in Krishna consciousness. Like Prabhupada, he was feeling so much pleasure in bhakti, in that he feels why everybody else is suffering. They should also get this. Just like when you see a nice movie, which devotees are not meant to see unless it is a Krishna conscious movie. But if you were seeing before, then you would tell, if it was a nice movie, you would tell your friend, hey, you should also go and see. It's a very nice. You went to some place, vacation, and you had a very good experience. Then you talk about it, right? I'm just identifying with my consciousness material. So whatever we feel is good, we want to share with others. So the pure devotees, they feel this is so nice. This Krishna consciousness is giving so much happiness. Why others are suffering? Why they are not getting this? So Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So Tunde Tandavani Ratim Vitanute Tundavali Labdhay. Rupa Goswami is saying, oh, this Krishna, the name Krishna has produced so much nectar. So actually there is so much nectar in Krishna consciousness. It is not to make us sad, it is to make us happy. This process of Krishna consciousness is joyful and it will make us even happier as we follow the process. So that is that is why the great souls, they preach because they want everybody to feel happy in Krishna's service, because that is the nature of the soul. Jivere Swarup hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. So now we have become Maya Das. So instead of becoming Maya Das, we have to become Krishna Das. So when we become Krishna Das, then we will feel happy. Otherwise, we get all the trouble from Maya. Maya is also Krishna's servant. And Maya wants us to become a devotee of Krishna. So she gives us trouble. Trouble is good. Kunti Devi says, yes, give me more trouble. If so that I can remain Krishna conscious. Kunti Devi says, we may not be able to say like that. But if trouble is making us more, generally when there is material happiness and everything is going on nicely, then where is the need for God? Why do I need God? Everything is going nice. Or you may go once in a while to the temple and just ring a bell, put some money in the hundi and come back. But when there is distress in life, then the pious souls, they turn to God. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna. That's why material world is set for distress. It is meant to frustrate the living entity in his attempts to enjoy, so that he can question, why am I suffering? This is unless we ask this question, why am I suffering? I don't want to die. Why death is forced upon me? There's a nice verse in Prahlad Maharaj's prayer. He describes material life. Yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga janma. He says, in this material life, what is dear to us is taken away, and what is not dear to us is given to us. Yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga janma. So, and then he says, shoka ninasakalayo nishuda yamanaha. Everybody is suffering in this material world because what is priya is viyoga. Yoga means to combine. So viyoga means to separate. Whatever you like is taken away. Our family members die. So many things happen. The money is taken away sometimes. And what we don't like is given to us. Yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga. So apriya is sayoga. We don't like death. We don't like old age. We don't like disease. That is given to us. And because of this, there is a fire of lamentation burning in everybody's heart, in all species of life. Sakala yonishu dahiyamanaha. So this is what is the remedy? So he says, so the remedy is to engage in the service of the Lord. Oh, Narsinghadev, please instruct me in your devotional service. Bhuman Brahmami Vadame Tava Dasi Yogam. Please instruct me in your service and save me. So anyway, so that is verse number 9. Okay, so practice Bhakti Yoga. Now, if you can't practice Bhakti Yoga, Abhyase pi asamarthosi. Asamarth means if you're not able to practice Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna is saying, no, it doesn't mean that you are useless. No. Krishna says, okay, one level down. Mat karma paramo bhava madartham api karmani kurvam siddhim avapshasi. So he says, okay, then just try to work for me. Do some work for me. Mat karma paramo bhava. So he says, Prabhupada says in the purport that every endeavor requires some land, some capital, some organization. So one can, as we were hearing, I joined when there is a temple coming up somewhere. So one can contribute to it doesn't mean that if we are not following the principles, then only we should contribute. So this is applicable to, this includes, the higher stages include all the others. So we should also do something for, Krishna, propagation of Krishna consciousness. So in this way, Krishna says, you will come to the perfect stage. In the previous verse, he said, by practicing the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the result will be you will attain a desire to attain, you will develop a desire to attain me. And in this verse, he says, you will come to the perfect stage. So like that, he goes on. It's 2:00. So Satyasara Prabhu, how much can I go? Should we leave some time for questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yeah, you can go for 10 more minutes. Then we can have a Q&A, Prabhu.
Okay. So then Krishna says, okay, if you can't do this, if you can't work for him, because Prabhupada says your family is against something, you can't work for Krishna. Then what he says, that's verse number 11. अथेतदपि असक्तोसि कर्तुम मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्म फल त्यागम तत कुरु यतात्मवान. If you're not able to work for me, then what you should do? You should give up the results of your work, sacrifice the results of your work for some noble cause. And Prabhupada says you can, like sometimes, you give money for the hospital or for some philanthropic activity, feeding the poor, like that. So you are sacrificing some results of yours. You are not selfish. So some purification happens because you are sacrificing the results of your work for for the benefit of others. Now, it is interesting to note that in this verse, Krishna is not giving any result. He says, just try to be self situated, just try to be self satisfied. He's not giving, in the previous verses, he said there'll be a result. For everything, he gives a result. But in this, he says, just try to be self situated. Of course, you get punya karma. You get punya karma by helping others on the material platform, and that sets you up for good enjoyment, material enjoyment in the next life. You get a higher position, you may go to Swargalok. But the problem is with this, uh, that you still are not out of the cycle of birth and death, and you have not still revived your constitutional position. So it is good, it will give you some purification, and then slowly through the purification, one may come to accept Krishna, like that. So that is what it is described here. Now, the 12th verse of the 12th chapter is a little confusing. Uh, so we'll attempt to understand this. So Krishna says, okay, if you can't do this, he has gone. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnanam jnanat dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phala tyagas tyagat shantir anantaram. So different acharyas have given different explanations on this verse. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given one explanation. Baldev Vidyabhushan has given one explanation. But we will take Prabhupada's explanation for now. And so Krishna is saying, if you can't do this, if you can't take to this practice, means you cannot follow, you cannot do abhyas. Abhyas means whatever he said before. If you cannot follow the practices of Krishna consciousness, then you should cultivate knowledge. Shreyohi jnanam abhyasaj. So gyan means you should cultivate knowledge. What is that knowledge? Knowledge about Brahman, about how I am not this body, I'm different from this body. So it is called gyan. Gyanis, they so cultivate some knowledge about Krishna and or about yourself, the that I'm aham brahmasmi, I'm spirit soul. Then when the knowledge becomes very intense, then it culminates into dhyan. And with the impersonal gyan, you can reach Brahman. But with dhyan, you can reach the Paramatma because you practice Ashtanga Yoga. So Paramatma is higher than Brahman realization. So here he says, if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. That knowledge is about the spirit soul. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is the renunciation of the fruits of action. So if you can't engage in meditation, better than means it is like if you cannot do this. So if it is not done with ease, then you renounce the fruits of your action, and that will give you peace of mind. Because as long as we are attached to enjoying the fruits of our action, then there is anxiety because we are attached. But when we part with the fruits of our results for Krishna, then we will experience peace because Krishna is the enjoyer. That is the peace formula. Bhoktaram yagna tapasam. Krishna is the enjoyer. Bhoktaram yagna tapasam. Sarva loka maheshwaram. Suridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. 529, I think. So this is so he says, by this you will attain peace of mind. Okay, now the last section, Krishna describes different qualities of a person that makes that person dear, that devotee dear to him. So he speaks many qualities. There are 35 in number. So we'll start with verse number 14. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukashami santushta satatam yogi yatatma dhrida nishchaya mayarpita manobuddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. So one who is non-envious to all living entities. Why there is envy? We have envy when somebody has more than us, or somebody has talents, or somebody has a position that is higher than us. We become envious. But the devotee is supposed to be non-envious. Prabhupada says material world is characterized by jealousy and envy, but spiritual world is no envy. Also, Narottam Das Thakur says everything, lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, everything you can engage, but envy you cannot engage in Krishna's service. He doesn't give any recommendation for envy. So envy, adveshta, it is the envy of Krishna that brought us to this brought us to this material world. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvanda mohena bharata. We wanted to act like Krishna. Why? Krishna is the enjoyer. I should be the enjoyer. Of course, as devotees, we enjoy even more than Krishna. That's why Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to experience what Radharani is experiencing. But sometimes this, because we have free will, we can become like, okay, why is he getting all the enjoyment? Why everybody is serving him? I should be the center. So that envy has brought us into this material world, and that envy translates into also envy of other beings. So we should feel that everybody has got their quota. Ishavashyam itam sarvam yat kinchya jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magrida kashyas vidhanam. Ishopnishad says one should be satisfied with what one has. They say you should be satisfied with your spouse, with the food you eat, and the money. I think that's how it is described. One should not be satisfied with one's japa, one's scriptural study. This you can increase, but otherwise one should be satisfied. And according to my past karma, I'm getting a certain standard of life. Everybody has their past karma. It is not permanent also, it is temporary. I may be a rich man, but next life, I may not be a rich man. If my karma changes, and so many karma has yet to fructify from so many lives. So whatever we have, we should use that in Krishna's service, whatever abilities, and one should not. So Prabhupada writes, devotee is not envious of anyone. A devotee does not become his enemy's enemy. He thinks this person is acting as enemy due to my own past misdeeds. So it is better to suffer than to protest. It is very revolutionary that I must have done something to him in the past life. So now he's behaving like this with me. So he or she. So this is also, now that doesn't mean if you are abused, if I have a burglar in my house, I will say, okay, maybe I stolen from him in my past life, so I will not do anything. I have a right to self-defense. But sometimes the great devotees, they don't even do self-defense. They just take it as Krishna's will. Like Amrish Maharaj, when Durvasa Muni created the demon to kill Amrish Maharaj, he just surrendered to Krishna. So depending on our level of, where we are at, we can. So whenever a devotee is in distress, he feels, oh, it is my own karma. Tatte nukampam susamikshamano. This is the guiding verse for all the devotees, Prabhupada says. Tate nukampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvag vapurbhir vidadhan namaste jive toyo mukti pade sadaya bhak. So whenever there is distress in life, we should think it is only my past misdeeds. We should not blame the Lord. We should not think, oh, it is the Lord that is giving me distress. Of course, the Lord, without Lord's sanction, nothing is happening. But it is what I Tatenu kampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Vipakam, pakam means whatever you have cooked, now that's what you are getting. And the devotee actually feels that Krishna has minimized my suffering. I was actually destined to suffer much more, but Krishna has minimized my suffering. Prabhupada writes, that's the psychology of a devotee. It's a very difficult thing when you are actually in distress to feel like that. But if you're chanting Hare Krishna, that means so many sins are getting nullified. And what we are getting is only a little token. And why Krishna is giving that little token? Because Krishna wants us to realize that this material world is not a nice place. He wants to give us our last vestiges of attachment to this material world. So Krishna puts his devotees sometimes in a difficult situation so that he loses all hope of enjoyment in this material existence. And he becomes completely dependent on Krishna. Yasyaham anugrinami harishya tadhanam shnai. Tato adhanam tyajanti yasya swajana dukkha dukkhitam. Krishna says, if I especially favor somebody, I take away all his, because those are the things that are binding us to this material world. So he takes away our sources of attachment. And then in that state, so it is a mercy of the Lord also, that sometimes the Lord does something to remove our attachment. So he says, he thinks, yes, Krishna is not, it is by the mercy of the Lord, Prabhupada writes, that I'm not getting all the punishment I'm due. I'm just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and he remains steady in his bhakti. Ridvag Vapur Vidadhan Namaste. So he remains steady in his bhakti and offers his respects. Even amidst the difficulties, he remains steady. Like Krishna told Arjun, you have to remain steady in your duty as a Kshatriya. You have to uphold dharma, and I want you to fight. Even it is inconvenient to shoot arrows against your grandfather and guru, but you should remain steady. You should do your duty, even it is a little inconvenient. So in that purport, Prabhupada writes, and I'll end with this, that sometimes, in the month of January, February, Prabhupada says, it is very cold. Now in America, we don't have that problem because we have temperature control. But in India, you may not have, heating and things like that. But a man will rise early in the morning, even though it is very cold in the morning. In the cold morning, it's difficult to rise. But he will rise early, take a bath, because he has to do his spiritual duties. Even it is little inconvenience. And how much inconvenience we go through for our material life. We have given so many exams. If we have become an engineer, we have gone through so much endeavor. So to attain Krishna also, we have to go through some inconvenience. Prabhupada writes in a very famous purport, or very nice purport in the Bhagavatam. He says, the Lord wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. What are you going to do? What pain are you going to take to serve the Lord? The Lord is more clever than any living entity, he says. He wants to see how painstaking. So what are we going to sacrifice? What are we going to do for him? So, and then he gives the example of a lady. She has to cook in the months of May and June in front of the stove, which is very hot. It's summertime, May, June, temperatures are very high. But she will still cook because it's her duty. Maybe she has to cook for the deity and it's her duty, and she has to cook for a family like that. So she'll do. So this is what, so I'll stop here. And
Prabhu, will you take questions, Prabhu?
if there is time, otherwise.
Oh yeah, we have time, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna devotees, if you have any questions, please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. This is Pushpanjali Dasi. Prabhuji, a very nice class. I always like listening to you. Your lecture just goes in like mango juice, don't have to struggle so much to understand. Thank you so much for the class. Prabhuji, I was just wondering about Tattena Anukampa, that verse. So, I was trying to see how much should we tolerate, where does a devotee decide, okay, this is tolerance, or this is interfering with my devotional service? How do we know, which one to do when?
Like there are some things you can't change, like if you got some like disease or something. I mean, you can try for a cure, but if it's something that you can't, do anything about, then you have to tolerate. So like Arjuna, he has to fight. So everybody has an elastic limit, like a rubber band has an elastic limit, right? Young's law, you see, if you stretch it beyond its elastic limit, it'll break. So sometimes there are provoking situations and temptations. So you have to tolerate, like in the first verse of Nectar of Instruction, it is described. One who can tolerate the pushings of the senses. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam. These vegams are the urges. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam. Jiva vegam, udara pasta vegam. Etan veganyo vishaheta dhira. Vishaheta means tolerate. A sober person who can tolerate the urges of the senses. Now, if somebody is giving me trouble in devotional service, somebody is abusing me, then I have a right to protect myself. And that will also depend. Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces, but he didn't say anything. He was actually praying, "Oh Lord, please forgive them because they're beating me. I'm your, they'll." So he was forgiving them. So it depends on everybody's level of, advancement, where they are at, and everybody's tolerance is also not the same. But we should, and sometimes we may fail also because there are temptations and things. So, but we should learn to tolerate, especially the urges of the mind. And if you want to make progress in bhakti, like today is Ekadashi. So in here in Columbus, I don't know if it's there in Austin, but you may have an urge to eat some grains or something like that. So you have to tolerate. Okay, no, today is Ekadashi. I cannot. The pushings are there. So in this way, and sometimes we have to tolerate others because we have also problems. We also have anarthas in our heart. Prabhupada says, as I am tolerating you, you should also tolerate others. And as Krishna is tolerating all of us, we should also learn to tolerate others because, Krishna is very tolerant. How many times we have been in this material existence and we have denied him? He's tried to connect with us and we have not, but he's still not giving up on us. Right? He's still very tolerant. He's like, anytime you want to come back, I'm ready. So unconditional, of course, like that. So you can tolerate to a certain degree, and it depends on, now if somebody is affecting the movement, let's say somebody is spreading some rumors and it is going to affect the reputation of ISKCON, right? Then you have to take some action. Like, if there is child abuse going on, for instance, you can't say, oh no, I have to be tolerant. No, because then that will bring a bad reputation to the society and to the preaching movement. So you can't allow tolerance, because if you don't take action, then it will become bigger. A stitch in time saves 9, they say. So at that time you have to, do something. So that's my understanding. Prabhupada writes a nice statement in the Krishna book. The greatness of a person is estimated by one's ability to tolerate the most provoking situations. The greatness of a person is estimated by one's ability to tolerate the most provoking situations. So there may be provoking situations, like Haridas Thakur had a very provoking situation, but he chanting Hare Krishna, so we have to take shelter of Krishna, like that. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but these are some thoughts that I had on tolerance.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very enlightening and helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anything else? So, thank you for.
Okay, Prabhu. So,
Hare Krishna.
so 1 minute, Prabhu. So we would like to give a thank you note, Radha Damodar, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, PremaSindhu Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful, amazing class you have given to us, Prabhu. You have classified this whole chapter 12 into the 3 sections. That was very helpful. Basically, the first 1 to 7 verses about the impersonal versus the personal, and 8 to 12 is the stages of bhakti, and 13 to 20 is the qualities of the devotees that makes Krishna very happy. So that that helped me in a big way, because I got everything organized in my head now because of that. So thank you, wonderful class, Prabhuji, and I'm very happy to hear about that. about the big point you mentioned about regularly hearing and chanting about how Rukmini Devi and Prahlad Maharaj, they heard from the very early childhood the whole, scriptures from Narada Muni, and they became, by birth itself, they are devotees. That's a big lesson for all of us to imbibe, and that's very great. And also the various stages of bhakti. If you cannot do this one, you follow the next steps. That's very, very practical for most of us, and we should totally go for the Bhakti Yoga path as clearly mentioned here. And at the same time, so also you mentioned about one should rise up early in the morning and chant in the Brahma Muhurta. We have a program in our temple to have that facility. Actually, we have a chanting program every day morning at 5:30 in the morning. So I would encourage everyone to get interested in this one. Take the message of this Bhagavad Gita class as it is, and practice it. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare.
Thank you, Radha Prabhu. Thank you, PremaSindhu Prabhu, for your.
Thank you for the opportunity. Satya sir.
Yeah. Talk to you later, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So devotees, now we'll do a quick announcement. Then Neha Mataji will sing Narsingh Arati. Damodar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna devotees, we have one quick announcement. Our dear, as you all know, our dear Veena Mataji's father, Manohar, Sri Manohar Prabhu, left his body on Thursday. And we have a 1-hour Kirtan program today to pray for the departed soul. So please join today evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Please log on to the same Zoom, Sunday Feast Zoom. So please, let's all chant the Mahamantra for, let's now chant the Mahamantra 3 times for the benefit of the departed soul. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Neha Mataji, Umesh Prabhu, and Meera.
Namaste Narasimhaya, Namaste Narasimhaya, Jala Jala Dadaini, Prahlad Dadaini, Hiranyakashipo Hiranyakashipo Vakshaha, Shilatanakanakalai, Shilatanakanakalai, Ito Narsimho Parato Narsimho, Ito Narsimho Parato Narsimho, Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimho, Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimho, Bahe Narsimho, Hirdaye Narsimho, Bahe Narsimho, Hirdaye Narsimho, Narasimhamadin Sharanam Prapade, Narasimhamadin Sharanam Prapade, Tava Karakamalvari Nakha Kashipo Tanu Binga Keshavadita Hare Hari Rupam Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Narasimhadev Bhagwan ki jai.
Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Wonderful, Neha Mataji. Thank you very much for singing so devotionally. Thank you, Umesh Prabhu and Meera Kuti for supporting Neha Mataji. So with that, Hare Krishna devotees will conclude our virtual Sunday feast program. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious week. See you all this evening at 6 o'clock. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.